But it's a real joy to be with you all tonight, especially to break open, like, what is purpose? Like, what's the purpose of a pilgrimage? What's the purpose of World Youth Day? All really good questions, but we're just going to start with the purpose of us for tonight, which is really incredible. And, like, this is amazing that we've got 5 seminarians and 1 Mr. Deacon-to-be with us. Like, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Now, I've been getting a few messages from people. They message in on Facebook, like, Kat, you know, or Dory, like, we see what's happening. Are you guys coming to World Youth Day? Sadly, Kat and I are not coming with you to this amazing pilgrimage, but we're with you tonight. So we're pretty stoked about that, to clear that up there as well. Now, for those who don't know me, my name is Frances. I get called Dory, though, because I really do have an issue of memory. So I'm sorry, I've got to come back to your name a few times. So any apologies for earlier. You know, it's a struggle bus for me. I grew up in the Hunter Valley with my 5 brothers, my pet cow, and I really love Roman riding. Does anyone know what that is? Did you put the picture in? I did not put the picture in. No. It's where you have 2 horses and you put 1 foot on either horse and you stand up, and it works really well if the horses go the same direction, and it gets awkward really quickly if they don't. But it's a lot of fun there. And as Liz mentioned, I'm with the Culture Project. And has anyone heard of us before? Oh, amazing, epic. So what we are is basically like this new movement of young people set out to restore our culture through an experience of virtue. And what we believe is basically a world where every human being knows that they are loved, and the only way to treat anyone else is with love. And so we're onboarding a missionary team at the moment, which is super exciting. And so that's who we are. But let's dive into what purpose is. Now, guys, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to lie, a little bit intimidated. We've got so many seminarians here. I've only dabbled in philosophy, so you guys will probably be able to like help out a bit here. But when it comes to like purpose, like everything in this world has a purpose, right? Everything. Like, I never knew this. Kat had to share this with me. But does anyone know what the purpose of this thing is? Yep. Sprite, what is it? To put a straw in? Like, is it like, it's incredible. Like, I legit found this out last week and thought it was the best thing ever. So everything has a purpose, and we call like in philosophy we have a term for that, like teleology. Now the seminarians are probably like, oh man, I've done so many essays on this stuff. So all it means though is basically that the telos, like the end of things, like there's a purpose for that. So if I got like a volunteer to come up, who might be a seminarian, who might not be a seminarian, who wants to be a volunteer? Oh, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Now, Mark, are you a teleologist? Have you studied?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you are now going to become an official teleologist. Can everyone say that? Teleologist. Okay, Mark, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Mark, what is this object?
This is a chair.
Okay, what is the purpose of this chair?
The purpose of this chair is to sit on.
Can you demonstrate that, please? Not bad, dude. So, Mark, you can go back to seminary and be like, Father, you know what? I'm a teleologist. You know, it's a thing. It's a thing, right? No, thank you, Mark. Have a seat through. Now, ladies, I can't let the guys have one up on us. I'm going to need a female volunteer. Oh, Mon can come on up, Mon. I feel like Mon's like the most recent addition to the family, right? Like as of 2 days ago, is that right, Mon? Yesterday? Welcome, Mon. This is amazing. Now, Mon, are you ready to become a teleologist?
Heck yeah.
What is this thing?
It's a hula hoop.
Can you demonstrate the purpose of a hula hoop?
Yeah, I can. I'm not even good.
Oh, this is serious. Oh! A hula hoop is... No, that's... Remember this for Panama, guys. Remember this for Panama. Now, guys, you might be like, where is this going? But okay, let's just retrack a bit. So the purpose of the chair is to? The purpose of a hula hoop is to? Show up. If your name's Mon Bajanowski. Okay, the purpose of you is? Can I show you the slide? To love? Like, okay, look, you guys are all HDs. You guys, Sony, all HDs. Okay, but guys, work with me. If I was like, what is love? What do you guys say? How does it go, Justin? How does it go?
Baby, don't hurt me.
Thank you. Now, like, guys, without fail, like New Jersey Shore in the States, Gold Coast here in Australia, like you say that, like what is love? And everyone's just like, they just start singing like Justin did.
No, it's not.
Baby, don't hurt me. It's done. It's happened. Okay, but if I was like, Only one chance. Only one demo here. Okay. But if I was like, guys, like, what actually is it? Like, if we had to put a definition on love, what would we say? Oh. Okay, sorry, you just straight for the good stuff. Okay. Are you a seminarian? Like, okay. Anyone else? So our Lord, yeah, like God is love, yes.
Willing the good of the other with no expectation of recompense.
Okay, we're getting some Aquinas happening here. Okay. Seminarian side showing strong. Can we have something from this side?
It depends on what. It depends on what definition of love you're talking about.
Oh, so we're talking like philia, agape.
philia,
Yeah.
agape, eros.
Okay, I see. Okay. Look at the seminarians just like news their beef. Okay, yeah, okay. Anyone else? Definition of love?
To be a gift to the other.
Oh! Can we repeat that?
To be a gift to the other.
We're getting some head nods. Yeah. You guys are incredible. You actually are. And like, I think the element that weaves through all of that is that element of sacrifice. Like, to be a gift, you have to be able to like give yourself, like that's a sacrifice. Like our Lord, oh my gosh, there's sacrifice there. You know, like the element that's all coming through, willing the good of the other, huge amounts of sacrifice. Now guys, as I was saying, like I think this is like something for us to even think about now. I'm just gonna like plant this seed. Is there like a time in our life where we've experienced that, where we've had to sacrifice for someone else, or someone sacrificed for us? Like just in like a tangible way. It might be a big way, it might be a little way. Growing up in the Hunter Valley, my brothers had some bad ideas. Like with 5 boys, there was always something happening. They may have set the house on fire. They may have set another house on fire, or put the cow in the house. Like things happened, right? But there's one particular Saturday morning, my oldest brother had a really bad idea. He came down, he's like, Dory, I know what we should do today. I was like, what? He goes, let's go kayaking in floodwaters and we won't tell Mum. And I was like, yes, that sounds great. So we grab the kayaks, we go down to the Hunter River. It like floods every 10 years. You can just like, oh, it's good. So we go in, amazing rapids, it's great. And then my kayak hits an underwater tree. And I capsize. I'm like 13 years old at this point. I remember thinking, if I grab hold of the kayak, I'm going to stay alive because kayaks float. So I'm holding onto this kayak for dear life and just like going around the bend, and comes across and there's this fallen down log in the middle of the river. I'm like, that's even better because it's not moving. So I let go of the kayak and I grab the log with both my arms, and the kayak comes in behind me and it pins me right against the log, so it's my chest. So I can't inhale, I can't exhale, I can't breathe. And the water that was originally going underneath the tree now starts to build up and pushes like over the top of me. And eventually the pressure went so high that pushed the kayak down the river. And like, I'm still stranding there. I'm like 13 years old. My oldest brother's like, just hold on, I'll come back for you. Like he can't stop, right? Because the current's just too fast. And so he ends up beaching his kayak a bit further down, and I scramble on this log, and he comes rowing up to the top of the riverbank. And he holds up this rope. He goes, you're going to be okay. I've got rope. And the rope just breaks. It's like this sketchy old rope. At that point, I'm like, I'm dead. But my brother didn't give up. He kept running from farmhouse to farmhouse, and eventually found someone who was home. And he called up my dad. So my dad comes down to this river. He sees his only like little girl like stranded out on this log, and he says not a word to me. He ties himself onto a tree and starts to wade out into the water. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, my dad's going to die because of me. So I like start to crawl along this log. And my dad just goes, don't you move. I thought he was going to kill me, so I like stayed put. But like, he threw me the rope. He said, like, tie yourself on and jump as far as you can upstream, and I'll catch you when you come past. And I did, and my dad caught me. But I look at that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's what love is, right? Because that's like willing to sacrifice yourself for someone else. And so I look at it, I'm like, damn, Dad, like, that's it. Like, that's what love is. Like, he could have been like, you know what, I don't really feel like love today. You know, I don't really feel that storge, you know, happening here right now. But he was like, no, I'm going to choose to love you even when it's tough. And JP2 had this amazing principle when it came to love in human beings. He called it like, it was his personalistic norm. And essentially what it was that every human being deserves to be treated with love and with nothing less. To treat someone with less than love is actually to violate their dignity. And so if we've defined love as being willing the good of the other, even when that's tough, and being willing to sacrifice for them, then that means that every human being deserves that love. And starting of us knowing that love, and then everyone else from that. So when we say like, oh, okay, our purpose is to love, and love is sacrifice and willing the good of the other, that makes things like a bit hefty, right? Like, that's a solid challenge. It really is. Has anyone in this room like asked yourself that question? You're like, what is my purpose? Like, why am I here? Like, has anyone like thought that before? Anyone? Hands up. Yeah, a few. Put your hands up if you're like under 10 when you thought that. Yeah, okay. Under 15? Under 20? Under 30? Okay. Never thought that, no. Okay. I remember thinking this when I was about 10 years old. I was like, what is my purpose? Because my parents were all they taught each of us, like, you were created for a particular purpose that only you can do. Now, I told you guys that I've got 5 brothers. Next one, thanks, Kat. But what I didn't tell you is I've got a little sister, Rosie, and she's a babe. This is Rosie here. This is like baby Dory and her fam bam. Poor mum, she probably doesn't know and use that photo. But that's us there. And so Rosie was born and when I was 10 years old. And Rosie actually got really sick and she died 5 days after birth. I remember trying to cut this deal with God, right? I was like, okay, like, you know what? Like, we could swap. We could do a swap. I could die instead of Rosie, right? And that didn't happen. So when that didn't happen, I was like, well, I'm going to live this life for the 2 of us. But to do that, I'm going to figure out what Rosie's purpose is. I'm going to do that really well. And so I was like, okay, what's my purpose? What's Rosie's purpose? How am I like going to figure this out? And I remember finding this poem that my auntie wrote. I wanted to share it with you all because I thought it was really beautiful. When measuring out a lifetime, mine was only very small. But God sent me with a special job. I had a message for you all. I tried so hard to tell you, you were all so near. But you were so busy taking care of me, I thought you couldn't hear. My angel's always with me. He held my hand with love, and all the strength I needed came straight from God above. So I kicked my legs and I opened my eyes, and I looked at every loving face. I saw how filled with joy you were when I waved my arms about the place. But I grew so tired, and I knew my time was near. I tried so hard to tell you, I hope that you could hear. Did you hear me whisper? I spoke the words he told me to. Love one another as I have loved you. I remember reading this as a 10-year-old and I was like, that's it, love. That's one word. That's so easy. I've got this, no worries. By day 2, I wanted to punch my brother in the face and I was like, not so easy. But what I realized, I was like, this isn't just like Rosie's mission. This isn't just Dory's mission. This is all our mission in how we love. Can you guys just imagine what our world would look like if every human being knew that? If every human being knew that they were loved and the only way to treat anyone else was with love. Like, we'd have a different world out there. We really would. And it all starts with us though, right? Because you can't give what you don't have. Now, although our purpose is all to love, it's going to look radically different for each one of us because our particular gifts and talents and situations are going to be different. You're going to be able to love people in ways that I never could and people that I'll never meet. And it's going to look different for each one of us. So to be able to find that, it's going to come down to silence because we have to first to be loved and then to be able to give that to others through service. And like for me, guys, I don't know about you, but I really love music. Like growing up especially, like anywhere I'd go, I'd have music on. If I went for a run, I'd have music on. If I like just got my P's in that ute, I'd be like cranking my CDs. Like, you know, I always listen to music. How much silence do you guys get a day? Give me a guesstimate. If I was like, how much silence do you get? What would you say? Sorry? How much silence do you get a day?
2 hours.
2 hours? Rich is not backing you up there. You get an hour and a half? Who gets like 20 minutes? Like, help me out. How much silence would you get a day? Half an hour? Does anyone get less than 20 minutes? Sleep. Okay, I'm talking like intentional silence. You have to be conscious for this stuff to count. No cheating, guys. How much silence would you get a day? Ian Smith, how much silence do you get a day? 2 minutes. Falling asleep. Like, it's hard, right, guys? And I remember, for me, like, as I said, I'd always be listening to music. And then this song came on from Pink. You guys might be old enough to remember it. And the lyrics were like, the silence scares me because it screams the truth. The silence scares me because it screams the truth. I remember hearing that, I was like, oh, I'm scared of silence. Like, I really am. For me, if I had a bad day, I'm going to next slide, Kat. I'd go climb my mountain. So this is my mountain. This is like my little town down here. If I had a bad day, I was like, can't handle the world. I'm going to go climb a mountain. I remember sitting up there though and being like, just in that silence, I could actually start to face all the things that was happening and be like, oh gosh, like all those fears of like, am I enough? All those insecurities, like all those things. I remember being like, just having the space to think and to breathe. And this is a fair way from my town. I remember like climbing a mountain one day and I was like, I could just go to the church like a block away. And I was like, no, you can't do that, Dory. People think you're a holy freak. Like, you just climbed that mountain. But eventually, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the church. And so I went to the church and like, honestly, like just sitting in front of love himself and having that silence, because I feel like we can have external silence, but having internal silence is completely different, right? Like we can have that external silence and we can still be thinking, oh, like about that post on Facebook and that thing that person said, and like it can go on and on. But to have that internal silence as well, where you can really just sit, that's something I think that was very missing in our culture. JP2 called it the classroom of silence, where we could just sit and be loved. Not for what we're doing, not for who we are, but just for, exactly that, who we are. Which is incredible, and to bring everything to the light, because I feel like in our culture we go from being busy to be distracted. Like we don't have that time for silence. And for me particularly, when I was like, again, I went on this camp with my family, I was like super young, probably like 13, and I was like a real ratbag child, right? And so it got to nighttime, and whenever it got to nighttime, my dad would always come to get me to bed, because when I get tired, I get angry. And so I was like, the one place my dad's not going to send me to bed is if I'm in the chapel, because I want to stay up and play games all night. But I was like, you know what, stuff the games, I'm going to go to the chapel, because that way I won't have to go to bed. So I was in the chapel. It was the first time I experienced adoration, and I was just in there because I didn't want to go to bed. Like that was my pure intention. I was like, this is great. I am winning at life. I'm trolling my parents. This is perfect. It never occurred to me that I actually wasn't playing games, which is what the ultimate goal was. I'm like, I'm just staying up. This is good. And it was in this moment where I actually had an amazing encounter with Christ, and I really knew that I was loved. And it changed me. It really did, because I was like, oh my gosh, like knowing that I am loved, that I am a gift, and then just like fortifies the whole way that we change the world. But I think we need to have that silence to know whatever like is underneath that, or what we're running from, or what we don't know about ourselves, or we're scared to know or scared to face, that we can bring that to the light. And so I really challenge you guys, if you're getting like 20 minutes of silence, maybe like try and get like 30 minutes, try and get 40 minutes. And if that's like you climb a mountain, or you like close the door in your room, but like bonus points if you can just go before our Lord. Because it's there when we know that we are loved and truly loved, that we can then be a gift to others, as Sarah said. And I saw this in my own life, where it was like, after we knew that we were loved, then we could be called to love others, right? That's like the amazing, beautiful thing in all of this. And for me, that really hit me very hard when I was very young. I remember quite well when I was 12 years old, and my friend's sister went to get an abortion. And I had never heard the word before. Like I grew up in this little country town, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this thing? So I was like, I'll just ask Google, right? Because that's what you do if you want to find out something. And my heart just broke. And the more I read, and like I went to like the local library, got out Melinda Tenkard-Rees' book, Giving Sorrow's Words, it was just testimonies of women. And my heart just like, again, it just broke, because I was like, far out, like this is an industry where women are being lied to, women are being hurt emotionally, psychologically and physically, to say nothing of the effects on the men either. All that for a little child, I was like, it's such a lack of love, a lack of that woman knowing that she is loved, and having the capacity to love the child within her. And so I was like, far out. I remember like seeing this as a 12-year-old being like, well, what am I going to do about it? I was like, well, what does the 12-year-old do about such a thing, And so again, kept Googling. And I found this thing called the Spiritual Adoption Program, where you like pray every day. I was like, that's great. A 12-year-old can do that. So we got about 750 people together doing that across 3 states. I was like, that's awesome. I was like, we've got to do more. And so when I was 14, we hosted like our first pro-life dinner in my little town. I got my very first death threat. And my mum was like, honey, this has been really sweet, but people want to kill you, so you need to stop now. I was like, no, Mum, we're doing great work, see? And so we kept going through. And then even in high school, to be honest, like really encountered that as well with my like beautiful friends. And like they weren't always on the same page. There was one particular friend, she was like, as soon as she posted anything, like she'd be instantly there, like just putting down all the arguments, like instantly. It doesn't matter what time. I was like, does she have a radar to know when I'm going to post? But we always was very polite, and we was like, hey, I love you as a human being. But she ended up calling me up when she was in year 10, and she was just crying on the like bedroom floor, and I came in. I just held her, she said like it was a baby, it was a baby, it was a baby. But all her other friends weren't there for her in that moment because they said, hey, it's just a blob of cells. What are you upset? What's wrong with you? And so it was just incredibly hard to love in all these different ways going through school. When I got to university, I kept giving talks about these issues. And a girl contacted me and she stalked me down on Facebook and she said, hey, I'm 14 years old, I'm pregnant. My mum and sister want me to have an abortion. I can't kill my baby. Can you help me? And so we got in contact with Jenny from Diamond and we were able to journey through with her. And I remember this amazing girl, she was like, I want to go back to school, I'm going to become a personal trainer, I'm going to be the best mum I can be. And all she had to be was have someone say, hey, I believe in you. And so this is her here with her little bubba. He just turned 5 the other day actually, which is amazing. But I'm like, far out. This is just, it's heart-changing stuff, it's life-changing stuff when we can able to go out there in love in these particular ways. Which has then led this whole thing of hey, how about we have a whole movement of young people doing this in Australia? But this is all coming from an overflow of having been loved first. And I really feel like it's not just a one-off thing. It's not I know that I'm loved by Christ and now I'm just going to go serve, or I'm just going to serve without being loved. It's got to go hand in hand. I think when we get that unbalance, that's when things can start to be wait, this is not right. What's happening here? And I really love what Sarah said about being a gift, because I think it comes down to it in a lot of ways when it comes to being loved in that silence and loving others through that service. So if I had a gift here, would anyone want the gift? No. Okay. No, guys? No one wants a gift? Chris wants a gift. Mom wants a gift. Sony wants a gift. So if I was okay, Sony, do you want the gift? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. No, do you really want it?
Yes. May I please have it?
Oh, yeah, actually, okay. Okay. You can take one down, pass it around. But it might be hey, that's a really basic action. But I think we forget about this when it becomes being a gift. Mark's give it here, right? But for it to be a gift, if Sony had grasped at that, it wouldn't be a gift, right? He'd just be taking. But for Sony to actually receive that, he had to have his hands open. He couldn't be holding on to other things, He had to be active in that receiving of the gift. It wasn't just here's a gift, Sony. He's no, can I have it, please? It took him being open to be vulnerable, which what it takes us when we have that silence, right? And it also takes that act of being able to give. And so that giving and receiving, it's got to go back and forth constantly. Now, that was a mini story of how service can overflow off in someone's life, but that's going to look different for each and every one of you in how you encounter the people in your life, for where you see this great need. Because ultimately, when we look at our world and we look at these crazy things happening, it really does come down to a lack of love in so many situations. And if our purpose is to love, then what's that fire in your heart that ignites that specific need where you're yes, that's where I want to love, that's where I want to outpour my love. And where are those places in our life where we're hey, maybe I'm not worthy, or maybe I've done this thing that we need to take to the Lord to be loved first. So I guess to recap, then if our purpose is to love, we can find that and be loved through silence, and that overflows then into our service. What's next, Kat? And as Mark said at the beginning of the whole presentation, great work, Mark, love is willing the good of the other. And was it kindness? You guys will be able to get to it there. And if you guys have any questions and want to follow us on Instagram, you may welcome to do so, the Culture Project. I know that Chris wanted to go into small groups, so I'll hand that back over to his team. Or did you want to do feedback first? After? After. Awesome. So we'll hand back over to the Sky team to see how you want to facilitate small groups.